Channel 1? Okay, everybody. Okay, let's start the meeting part. Anytime you want something to eat or drink, just get up and go. I'm wearing this microphone because Tony's recording it, and it's clear if I have the microphone near my mouth. And then I will send a link, and you can watch part of it again if you missed something. But it's mainly designed for the people who couldn't come tonight, that they can use the link. I sent you a link already. I sent it to everyone, but it's primarily for the singers of our rehearsal. If you had a chance to watch it, I think it's helpful to remember. So we'll just keep doing the same thing. Our feature speaker tonight is Ann Young, and she's there in the blue. And sitting here, Ann.
Who chose you?
Ann just came back from Egypt, the Holy Land, and Jordan. So she's going to be the person that you can ask very specific questions. I've not been to any of these three places, so I can't be real specific. But before she begins, I do want to talk about the basic mechanics or the ins and outs of the trip to make sure everybody understands in your head what's going to happen, okay? So I'm going to go through a section, and then I'll ask if you have any questions. So don't interrupt till I get to there. And this is not terribly specific. If you're looking for information on packing or other specific things on using money and stuff like that, we'll have a different session on packing and managing money, okay? This is just an overview. First of all, before you go, you want to pack wisely. This is not a trip that you can just throw things in a suitcase that morning, okay? So you need to really think it through. The tour company will give us a packet of information before we go, and in it we'll have a list of things they recommend that you should bring. Doesn't mean you should bring them all, but it helps you think of what things you may not think of on your own, okay? The most important thing that we have to do on our own is you have to notify your banks of your traveling arrangements. So if a credit card, whoever issues your credit card, they need to know that you're traveling so it's not flagged as fraudulent when you buy yourself something right away in Egypt or Israel, okay? That you have to do. When you pack, you have to remember that you have to manage your own luggage to the airport. And there may be times where you have to manage your luggage outside of an airport, but certainly in the airport when you arrive. One suitcase that gets checked, it should not look like it holds everything you've ever had in your life. You can go online when we know what airline we have, but it's pretty much the same with dimensions and stuff. If you've traveled at all, you know exactly what suitcase that you're bringing and whatnot. Who here has never been on a choir trip? Okay. Who here has never been on a trip with a group of people? Who here has never been overseas? Okay. So this is really going to be mainly designed for you rather than some of these seasoned people, okay? So there's one suitcase, unless you end up flying business class or premium and economy. It's one checked suitcase. In those other cases, it's two. And one carry-on bag, and then usually you can get away with a purse or a personal bag. Carry-on bag, please make it as small as possible. What fits in an airplane overhead bin probably does not fit in a bus overhead bin, okay? Because this is the bus, this is the plane. So you have to think what would go under your seat in the airplane would fit on the bus. So we'll talk about packing. I don't really want to get into it today, but what I do is put out everything I'd like to take, and then I go, okay, what can I live without? And you got to mix and match, and trust me, I don't know what anybody wore on any choir trip at any time. And we wear the same things, and nobody cares and nobody knows because they're all doing the same thing, okay? So it's enough for packing for now. Essentials. Do not leave your house without your passport. You absolutely have to have a passport. And you laugh. I've had people that have lost their passport on the plane, people who lost their passport the first day we got there, people who forgot their passport, made a copy of it at Kinko's or whatever and left it there and missed the trip. So anything that could possibly happen pretty much has happened. But you have to check that you have your passport at the airport. You need a credit card. I would recommend 2 credit cards. If you're like me, I only had 1 credit card, although a lot of people seem to have 10 and 12. And I got a second one just specifically for traveling. And the reason why I say 2 is because you're carrying one and the other's in your hotel safe. So if you happen to lose one or it gets compromised in some way, you still have another credit card that's usable. That's why I say 2. To get cash, if you want cash, local currency, you need a bank card or a debit card. If you know how to use a debit card, you put in your 4-digit PIN. That's exactly how you do it overseas. You don't do anything different. There's no area code, there's no country code, there's no anything, just the same 4 digits. Another thing people say to me is they think when they're overseas and they use their debit card, they're getting dollars. You do not get dollars. You get dollars in this country when you use your debit card. When you use a debit card in another country, you get their currency. So we'll have a whole session on money and how much to a dollar is the currency and stuff. I don't want to get into that, but I just want you to think ahead. You need a credit card, and I would bring a bank card in case you want some money in your hand for a vendor along the street, or you see an artist who painted something and they don't take credit card and you want to buy something. Okay, you probably don't need a lot, but you may need something. The other thing that's important if you've not traveled overseas is to make a copy of your passport and a copy of your credit and debit cards, the ones you're bringing, and carry them with you in a separate place than where your actual credit card is. So for some reason your bag gets stolen or you've lost your bag or something, it's way easier to get help when you have a copy of your credit cards and you have a copy of your passport. So on the back of your credit, front and back of both, it's got the telephone number, international phone number if you have a problem, okay? Wait till I'm all done, Susie, and then try to remember it. Our passports, MCI, Music Celebrations International, will also get a copy of our passports in case something happens. You can upload them at any time. You go to your portal, and I think it's the 4th heading on the top. It says brochures or something. It's uploading stuff and downloading insurance information and stuff. It's the same place. So you got 3 weeks to figure out how to upload it. Basically, you're going to take a picture of it or attach it to an email, put it in your gallery, something, and then when you upload it, you send it that way. So I haven't done it, but it's going to be something similar to that. Make sure that you keep checking your portal and you're making your payments. It's okay to make, those of you who want to make extra payments, I don't mean more money than the cost of the trip, but if you don't want to wait those 3 months to make a payment, okay, I got $500, I got $300, whatever, you can make payments constantly using your portal. You don't have to wait to a certain time. But we are all responsible for making sure our portals are correct. Okay? Now, the day of our trip, you have to get yourself to Tampa International Airport at this point. I was hoping to have flight information by tonight. I've been told I will have it by the end of the week, but I obviously didn't have it for tonight. I'm presuming I requested Tampa Airport, so you have to get yourself. Somebody said to me, when does the bus pick me up? No bus picks you up unless you've chartered one, okay? Someone else said to me, well, then how do I get to the airport? Well, you've just met 5 people, and you might meet 5 more, and find out if somebody lives near you. You could ride up with them. Maybe their son's going to bring them, their neighbor, maybe your neighbor, Uber or whatever. But you have to get yourself to the Tampa airport on time. Everyone, something I highly recommend, and I didn't usually do it, but I did on the last trip, and I was glad I did, is to invest in a pair of compression socks. Really makes a difference to wear compression socks on the plane. Okay? I wore it, this last trip I wore it going, and I was fine. And then I said, I'm not going to wear this going back. I mean, when you go back, when you go, you plan everything out strategically. When you leave, you throw everything in a suitcase, and you just want to get home. And I wished I had worn my compression socks. So consider that. When you get to the airport, if you're on a group ticket, which 99% of us are going to be on a group ticket, you get your seat assignment at the airport. Okay, let me repeat that. If you have a group ticket, which we do, the airlines will not assign 80-some people seats until you get to the airport. So when you travel on your own, you go and you put all the information in and you pick out your seat. I want an aisle. I want a window. I'd like to be by the bathroom. Where's the service cart? I need the front, whatever. You can't do any of that stuff till you get to the airport. So if you want a specific seat in the group flight, you get to the airport early and you request it. We have 80-some seats going to Egypt. The balance of people are going to the Holy Land, so 50-some going to the Holy Land, so there's plenty of seats to choose from. Typically, the people who are paying a regular fare, not a group flight, will take their seats, and then we will have the balance of the seats. So I just want to make sure you understand that. You can get your seat, usually when you check in at Tampa, you can usually get your seat for the way back too. So you want to ask that. Could you please give me my seat for the way back? So you get a whole 10 days or more to request what seat you want there. Okay, so listen carefully to this. So you're at the airport, you check your bag, you check your one bag, make sure the tag says either Cairo or Tel Aviv, depending on what group you're in. Someone I know takes a pic, he says, excuse me a minute, and she takes a picture of her luggage tags. Some people have that retrieving thing on their suitcases. I've never used it, so I can't tell you anything about that. The people I know that had that still lost their suitcases, and so I don't know if that really helps anything. It's up to you. Then you go to the gate, you go through security, you go to the gate, and when you get to the gate, I want you to check in with your group leader. I will assign everyone to a group, and do not tell me tonight if you want to be with somebody in a group, because I will not remember, and if I do remember, I'm going to tell you I didn't. So I'm going to email you in the next week or so when I'm ready, and I'm going to spend June sitting there with an index card with everybody's name on it and try to organize everybody into groups. So why do I want you to check in with your group? Because it's your group leader that's going to know if everybody that's supposed to be there is there in your group. So when I ask the group leader, is everybody here in your group? They say yes or no. If they say no, Betty Playa's not here, then I'm on my phone, I'm texting Betty, and I'm saying, Betty, where are you? Your group is at the gate. And then she's going to tell me, oh, I'm in the bathroom or whatever. So these same groups are how we're going to take attendance on the trip. So if we're going somewhere and we counted and there's 2 people missing, I'm going to go to each group leader and I'm going to say, is everybody here in your group? Everybody here in your group? And then I get to Carol Codello's group and they say, we haven't seen Carol in 3 hours. So then I know she's the one that we're looking for. And I can do it fast, okay? So we will all be in a group. And I will email you that probably in the next week or so. The Egypt group leaves before the Holy Land group. The Egypt group leaves on a Sunday, I believe, 2 days before the Holy Land people do. That part of the trip is closed. We have 84 people, I think, going. In that trip, we fly from Cairo to Luxor at one point, and then we fly from Cairo to Tel Aviv to meet the regular group. They're both chartered planes with 86 seats, and there's 84 of us. So there's no more room for anyone to go to Egypt unless somebody drops out. The Holy Land trip leaves, I think, on a Tuesday after that, at this point. So I am going on the Egypt thing, so I will appoint somebody to be responsible for checking in with the group people to make sure everybody's there for the Holy Land thing, okay? Egypt group leaves before. Security at the airport. Ann's going to talk about security at the airport, so I'm not going to say much about it. But in the Holy Land, there is a lot of security. Everywhere we go, Israel, Egypt, Jordan, there's armed guards and security everywhere. So we'll have time to talk about that, but when you get to the airport, I believe we'll have to go through numerous checkpoints, passport control, and whatnot. You can ask Ann about that. You gather your, go through passport control, you gather your luggage, and then I ask you again to meet with your group before you leave the luggage area and go to the bus. So for example, Marianne is there, she's got her bag. Richard, his bag finally came out. She has Richard organized, but before Richard and Marianne leave, they want to make sure that the other people in their group have gotten their bags, and then you go together to the bus. This past trip, where's Sue? She's here somewhere. Sue's bag was missing. We did not leave the luggage area. We went with Sue and our group, with Sue to the baggage claim thing. She filled out the form, missing bag, and everybody waited at the bus for us to come out, but we came out together. Okay? Got it? Then we go to the hotel and we check in. You need to be with your roommate kind of physically when we check in because they'll holler out names and hand out keys and whatnot. Okay, questions of what I said so far? Susie.
I was told when I first came to the first meeting that if your passport expired soon, and my passport expires in December, so you have to have 6 months out. And I applied for my passport on February 2nd, and it came yesterday. So check your passports because it takes a long time.
It does, thank you. It's got to be till April of 2024. And I don't know if Angel, if you have any words of wisdom on that, but the Strayceners just did theirs, and it took, I think, almost 3 months before they got theirs back too. You guys did yours?
Phones, or we should take phones, and do we need to do something here with our phones?
Yes, your phone, depending on what plan you have, Verizon, AT&T, whatever, you need to call or email your wireless contact, and they have plans for overseas, and ask for the choices. Some plans are like $10 a day. I never use that because it's more, I go by the minute, and texts are like 5 cents to receive a text and 50 cents to send one. So I tell the kids, or the other way around, I can't remember, but I tell the kids, look, if you got something to say, put it all in one text. Don't say sentence, 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 you know. So, and someone else said they had a plan that was $10 a day too, but you didn't use it. If you didn't use it, you didn't pay it. But you got to figure that out by yourself. But yes, you will have wireless connection.
But if you have Messenger on your phone, you don't have to do anything. Messenger, I can call Honduras, I can call any place. It doesn't cost anything.
WhatsApp, Messenger, if you have Wi-Fi.
WhatsApp, Messenger, any of those apps. As long as you're on Wi-Fi, you can get those.
The other thing with your phone is you need to check, I always turn my roaming off. Turn your roaming off. So you're not paying for their phone roaming for all this data. You're only receiving texts or phone calls, okay? But yes to the phone, but every program is different and you got to find the one that suits your needs. So that you got to do on your own. Any other questions so far?
You said to add something. The phones, I have Spectrum, and we just visited 5 countries. Every country I went to, they sent me a message. And usually the text.
Welcome.
Welcome, and your texts are 2 cents each, or your data roaming is 2 cents, or whatever. In every country, they sent me a message on what to expect. The other thing about the luggage, my friend started using a tracker in her luggage. They were just in Rome.
Yeah.
The luggage was lost, but they knew where it was for somebody to go get it. So that, and the other thing, a copy of your passport. I always, and this was recommended by Rick Steves, I always leave one copy at home with my son, who is our contact person. Because sometimes you lose the passport and your luggage is lost. So you always have somebody you can text and they have a copy sent to you. You know, that's-
And when we get to packing, you know, your passport, your medication, and these things all should be on your carry-on, not your checked luggage. But we'll get into all that with a whole other session because there's tons of questions on that. Any questions of anything I've said so far? Patty?
Do you need an adapter?
Yes. We'll have to get the details for that, but most of our devices, like our... All right, okay. Ann will talk about that. Okay. Ann?
Wanted to know, can you explain again about sending our passport to MC Otto?
I can tell you that when you go to your portal, and there's headings across the top, I think it's the third or fourth from the left, basically in the middle, it has uploading and downloading forms. So when I told you before, if you want to know what's included in your insurance and what's included in the upgraded insurance, I said go to there and read it, download the form, or just read it online without having to print it. That same one, there's one that says upload passport. And I haven't done it, but click on that and see if you can figure it out.
They should do it on their phone, because we just did it for Princess Cruise Line.
Yeah.
That we got it on our phone, the camera's there, we held the passports up, they clicked in on it, and took it, and they, a picture of each one of us. So it's on from your phone.
Okay?
No, I uploaded mine.
Oh, did you? Was it hard? Where'd you save your passport?
Well, it just says.
Desktop or laptop?
Upload,
No, your
then you
phone.
have to choose what it is you're uploading. And one is
Exactly.
passport.
I went to phone.
And one is passport.
And it's safe because it's a form, you're not doing anything.
Yeah, but you have to have,
Shh, okay, hold on. He's talking, please. He chose passport, and then how did you go from there?
You take, well, when I scanned it, it turned into a PDF.
So you scanned it with a scanner.
Scanned it with the scanner.
That's how I would do
Use
it.
your phone, same thing, it'll take any images, any kind of image.
Takes a QR.
So my advice is I've not done it, but try to do it. If not, find somebody 40 years younger than us, and they will be able to do it like that. Okay, now moving on. We've checked into our hotel. We've gone through security. We're at a hotel. We're all excited. We're exhausted. All our dinners, all our included dinners are at the hotel, except for the last one. I've arranged for a farewell dinner to not be at the hotel, but to be at a local restaurant because we could have entertainment. So our farewell dinner will be at a local restaurant nearby. The bus will bring us there, buses, and we will have Israeli entertainment. So other than that, we eat at the hotels. I believe the hotel dinners are mainly, I said entertainment. Yes, I see. The hotel dinners, I believe, are primarily buffets, Mediterranean food buffets. So maybe Ann would know more about that. I don't know. But so that's what I've been told, and that's what we will eat. So whether we'll have our own space or we'll be mixed in with everybody at the hotel, whether we have different times or a specific time, I don't know any of that stuff. But each bus has its own guide, and we'll figure all that out when we get there. There's some things we've got to leave to chance. We'll get announcements every day on the trip that tells you what time to be where the next day. Some of you are not used to paying attention. And you've got to pay attention to have a good trip, okay? Every day they'll start to blend in together, and every day is not the exact same time. All three buses go to the same places every day, most likely, but we may rotate in terms of the order we do something, or the buses may leave at staggering times. So you have to, once you know what bus you're in, you need to know what time you're meeting. So be prepared to be plugged in mentally on this trip. In terms of what we sing, that'll also be announced on the bus. Now, I'm only one person, and I am unable to be on 3 buses simultaneously, so I will appoint somebody on each of the other 2 buses to be my mouthpiece when we're singing to communicate to the singers what we're singing or whatever we're going to do. But each bus, as I said, has a tour guide, so you have to think of that you're on a trip of 43 people, not 130, because you're with your 43 people on your bus, and then once we get to the hotel, you're free to visit with anybody in the rest of the group or people that are in the hotel that aren't in the group, whatever. But you always think of it in that way, okay? And I will ask you if there's somebody that you can't imagine not being on the bus with, to let me know that too, because there'll be multiple groups on a bus, okay? Memorize your bus number, I said that. Directions given every day for the next day. Typically, when you come back on the bus and you have the night free, for example, you'll hear from our guide, okay, tomorrow, bus 2, wake up. We're leaving at 9:15. 9:15, be in the hotel lobby to get on the bus, okay? And then you'll know. Please stay at the hotel. Do not go anywhere alone. Do not decide in the middle of the night you're going to take a cab to Tel Aviv and join in a group of protesting people, okay? Don't go anywhere that's not authorized by the hotel or your group leader. Sometimes you need to go to a pharmacy or something like that, and they'll tell you where to go, that type of stuff. Just don't, nobody please go off on your own. Always go with somebody and don't go crazy, please. Don't forget your phone. These are probably the most important things that if you've never been on a choir trip, or a trip like this, excuse me a minute, Kathy. The itinerary is flexible. Everything won't happen exactly the way it is in the brochure that we had 6 months or 8 months ago. We're going to get something that's way more specific when we get closer to it. And when we get there, something could change. Something could be closed, something could be open earlier, so the times could change. So the first thing is we're going to go and we're going to have a good time and we're going to be flexible for these little things that happen. The second thing, and I bring this up because it's a problem nearly every trip, if you live alone and you've lived alone for quite some time and you're rooming with somebody that you've known in the choir for several years, I am telling you, you will not get along with that person and it will be your fault. Both of them, it will be their fault. Because you're coming with the attitude of having your room to yourself, your own bathroom, your own space on the counter, on the sink. You go to bed when you want to go to bed. You get up when you want to you get up and gargle at 2 and nobody cares. So seriously, nearly every trip, somebody's ready to kill their roommate. So you have to go tolerant of this situation. I'm very serious, very serious. You know, when you're married to your roommate, you know, you can beat him up or beat her up and they're used to it. But otherwise, no. And people have a right to use the bathroom. People have a right to take a shower. And people argue about who got up first and she hogged the bathroom, you know. You laugh, but I'm telling you. Good to discuss it before you go. And also, we will be exhausted, okay? So count on being exhausted, rest up before you go, and you just do what you can do and keep going.
We have a hand up.
Okay, I'm going to get not ready for questions yet, otherwise we'll be here all night. Clothing, we'll have a whole session on clothing, but basically think layers. I'm cold at night, I'm warm at the day, whatever. Singing costumes, if you're singing, you remember to bring what we're singing. We'll know the days that we're singing. Returning is the same procedure. We take the bus to the Tel Aviv airport, no matter if you're going to Jordan or not. You check your one bag, you go through security, check in with your group leader at the gate. Check in with your group leader at the gate. Everybody in the group is here. Once you land in Tampa, however, you're on your own. Once you land in Tampa, you are on your own. You don't have to check in with anybody, and you probably don't even want to see most of these people again. And you're on your own to get back to wherever it is that you live. Okay, questions? Miriam.
We'll have different team leaders, I assume, for the final leg of the journey. But some team leaders might be going home at the very end of the
I'm going to try really hard to get the people doing all three into similar groups, people doing these two into similar groups, and the people doing one into a similar group. I'm going to try. But if I'm a group leader and I have 8 people in my group and I know 6 of them or 2 of them are not going to Jordan or whatever, then I'm only going to be looking for those 6. So your group leader will have that information.
The other thing is, every hotel we go to, at the front desk, there's a card, with the hotel's name, address, we're gonna tell them that, and the phone number. Always take it and keep it in your pocket at all times, because if you're out of something, you can always show it to the taxi driver, and you don't have to worry about speaking the language or anything. Just take that hotel card.
Exactly.
Taking a picture.
Angel's taking a picture? Yeah, taking a picture. Okay, Jay?
That most likely will not be all of us in the same hotel.
No, I don't know. I do not have that information. I suspect we'll all be in the same hotel, but I don't know that. Don't know that. And they say we'll be on the same flight. Last time we had a group this large, we were on 2 different flights. So, but I do not have that information. Ann, then Chris, Ann?
May I make a suggestion that we buy something that everybody, like we went on the cruise, the riverboat cruise, we all had the sunflowers. It would be nice if we all had the same badge, so if you don't know that person very well, you can identify them that they're with, I mean, everybody, this whole group has the same flower or whatever it is, so that, oh, here was my group.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Chris?
On that point, though, you have to be very careful that whatever you're wearing is not a political statement of any kind. So just,
Yes.
Chris?
Are we staying in one hotel
I just said I do not, I believe we are, but I do not have that information.
for the whole trip?
No. No, we are a couple days in one hotel, a couple days in another hotel. There's no one night in a hotel, but we're a couple nights, then we move. Couple nights, and then we move. I've also been told that no bus ride is longer than 45 minutes. Okay? So we will not be spending a lot of time in the bus, but you will need the bus to get to your location, or you get on a taxi and meet us there if you overslept. And I have roommates that say, well, she didn't get up. And I said, well, did you wake her up? No. And then the roommate comes down like this and says, she didn't even wake me up. I was awake and I fell asleep and she just left me there. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Okay, yes, Carol.
You mentioned that we would be having dinner at the hotels.
I did.
What about breakfast?
A hotel. Dinners, we may, I'm guessing, but I don't know for sure, we will have that information that maybe we have an assigned time since there's a big group. But typically for breakfast, I get up at 6, I get up at 7, I get up at 6. I like to eat, then brush, go home and get ready. I like to get ready, then come down, get my hair ready, whatever. You eat breakfast when you eat breakfast. I don't eat breakfast, then don't eat breakfast. Okay? Ed.
When will we know our airline schedule?
I'm supposed to know it by the end of the week.
By the end of the week?
I went on a group trip and we arrived at a hotel and there was no elevator. And we were assigned to the 3rd floor, so we were responsible for pulling our own luggage. No one took it up for us.
When we were in Scotland on a trip, there was a lift or an elevator that accommodated 2 people and 1 bag. So unless you wanted to spend an hour and a half waiting, we had to schlep. And we'd be schlepping in Israel, right? We had to schlep our bags. So that's why I cannot emphasize enough that you need to be able to manage your bags. I looked at the hotels that they've recommended, and they're all really nice. So speaking of which, so I suspect they have lifts, but I don't know. We'll find that out. Speaking of which, starting next month, I didn't want to bore you with this, I'm going to be sending you information on what we're going to do day by day by day, specific information. So you read it, save it, or delete it. whatever suits you, okay? I'm going to send you pictures of the hotel, information of the hotel, what we're going to see, what's the significance of it each day. Do with it as you want. If I need a response from you, then I used to put it in red, but then someone says, mine comes across as not in red, so I don't know what I'm supposed to answer. So I bold it or underline it, and that means I need to hear from you an answer to this question. Otherwise, use it for whatever. Bathroom material, whatever, throw it out. Other questions? Schmidt.
This is one that I should ask MCI, but will we have a choice between milkshake and fleshing?
What?
Dairy or meat-based meals?
They will ask you that question at some point, but I don't know if it'll be that specific. Maybe gluten-free, non-meat. I don't know beyond that.
They're kosher.
Well, certainly kosher.
Mixed dairy and meat.
Well, I would imagine there'd be kosher. We'd be able to find kosher food in Israel. They won't serve anything other than kosher. Yeah, that's true. In Israel, they only serve kosher food. Yes.
On one of the emails, it says they have t-shirt sizes in that.
They have a what? I'm sorry.
T-shirt sizes.
Yeah, they mentioned T-shirt sizes. I don't know anything about that. So it sounds like maybe if we wear our T-shirts, we'll look alike, Ann. I don't know. I just copied it, what they said, and I didn't know anything about T-shirts. That stuff will all come. They have. We now have Alexis. This woman Alexis, if you call, is now our tour guide, because Amy had a baby and she's out for a maternity leave, and Alexis is our representative, and she has 7 trips that are launching in the next 10 days, and 3 more that are launching at the beginning of next month. So our trip is not at the top of her list right now, but come June, they'll have more free time to think about October trips. And then they don't really have anything in July, August, or September, so we should get way more attention then. But I understand that these trips are all leaving in the next 10 days. I can't imagine being and some of them, and our group is not a particularly large group for them, They've had groups of 160, 200, 180, because they deal a lot with band boosters and choir boosters, so a whole band is going somewhere or an orchestra is going somewhere, and they also are used to high school kids and college, a lot of college age tours. College is out in May, and at the end of the semester, the choir or the band is going overseas to do whatever. And they do have an office in Israel, and so that's helpful to us. Anything else before our featured speaker? Okay, Ann. Yeah, Gail.
I've been with MCI, but usually you have to wear those name tag things around your neck.
They usually have a lanyard with the name on it.
It's pretty identifiable.
And they give you free stuff, usually something to carry your passport in. They will give us luggage tags to put on our suitcases. So I like those because when I'm at the airport and I see a bag come by the conveyor belt with our tag on it, I pull it off whether it's mine or not. And some of you are courteous enough to do the same thing, and I put it down next to me, so then, I go, Patty, your bag! Patty Edward, your bag! And then Patty comes over and gets her bag, so use those luggage tags. Okay, Ann. Let's give Ann a round of applause. Hey! Bonjour, madame.
Bonjour. I thought you said this was going to be short.
No, I knew they have 1,000 questions. I just said it here.
Okay.
Tony will say if you can be heard.
Okay, very good. Hello, everybody. Shalom.
Shalom.
As you know, I did pretty much the same trip in January, this past January. So I'm just going to talk generally about a few things that struck me, and one in particular, as Tim mentioned, was the security. You will have security everywhere. The airports are you have to go through 2 or 3 different, what do you call them, the checkpoints where you pass through and, they read your, and Egypt, Cairo was, I think they had 4. And those of you that are going into Cairo airport, it is a huge, huge airport. If you have any doubts about your ability to walk, you should ask for a wheelchair, seriously. I will tell you that before I left on this trip, I injured my knee, and I thought I was going to be all right, and I was, sort of, but I ended up in a wheelchair most of the second half of the trip. And you should know that it's okay, it's great. And I also learned when you go through customs in a wheelchair, it's fast. Yes. So when you, Tel Aviv airport was a little bit confusing. You have to get a photo visa in the airport. And we had someone that met us at the plane and took us through the airport, because there's all these different things where you have to do that. I don't know if your group is going to have that person or not, but I'm sure that somebody will show you around and you get your little visa and you carry it with you all the time. I assume you're staying in Jerusalem, not Tel Aviv? Jerusalem is wonderful. We were there about 4 days, I think, and the old city of Jerusalem is very difficult if you are the least bit handicapped. It's very hilly, and you go up and you go down, and you go up the stairs and you go down the ramps, and there's these narrow, crowded streets. It's very, very picturesque, so be aware. And somebody was asking me about shoes recently. The best thing I can tell you is do not wear open-toed shoes, and do not wear flip-flops. Absolutely not. Particularly in Egypt, if you're going to Egypt or Jordan, because, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but no. Even in Jerusalem, in the old city, they don't allow any cars or golf carts or anything, so you're walking. The food was wonderful. We got most of our meal. We had our breakfast at the hotel. They had a buffet table that was as long as this room is wide, maybe even wider, and just all kinds of stuff that you would never imagine having for breakfast, but it was wonderful. Many, many kinds of olives and dates and desserts, and plus all the usual American stuff like eggs, no bacon though, and cereal, and no bacon. So, I mean, you could go all day on one of these breakfasts. They were really pretty amazing. And for clothes, what Tim said, I can't emphasize enough, pack light. Do not take 3 sweaters when you only need 1, really. What I wore tonight is pretty much what I wore on the whole trip. I wore comfortable slacks, I wore tennis shoes, and a t-shirt and a light jacket. And we were there in January, and it was, we read the predictions for what the weather was supposed to be like, and I even bought it was supposed to be quite cool actually, and I even bought a quilted jacket, which took up half my suitcase, and I never took it out of the suitcase. So you never know, it's probably going to be nice, it's going to be like Florida weather for you.
You're talking about slacks all the way down. We can't wear it.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe in Egypt and in Jordan, yeah, that might be a problem. We were told to bring, the ladies were all supposed to bring scarves to wear, if you go into a church or something like that. We never had that. We had scarves with us all the time. We never ever put them on. But again, we went into some Christian churches. You're not allowed to go in the mosques unless you're Muslim. And we didn't go in any synagogues. So I don't know. And they said that women are supposed to keep their behinds covered up, that sort of thing. But nobody ever said anything to us about that. So just be modest, ladies. Try to be modest. What? Yeah, I would think. Yeah. Right. And in sleeveless, I would say if you're going into a church, sleeveless is probably not good.
I lived in Sudan for a long time, and we were always told to wear things that went down on our arms,
Yeah.
over our knees.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And then, of course, everyone who lived there wore a coat on their head, and we didn't.
Okay.
What did she say?
She lived in Sudan for a long time, and they were always told to keep their elbows covered and their knees. Well, okay, down here. And you always had a headscarf?
No, we didn't. Expatriates did not have anything on their head, but everybody else did.
Oh, yes.
And then once in a while they get very curious and say everybody has one.
Okay.
So then Jordan was he like that or not?
Yeah, Jordan was probably the most strict. And as like I said before, the security is not just at airports. I mean, there's guys on the street, guys going into the hotel. You have to go through a checkpoint. I mean, there's everywhere. One time in Cairo, we had like a Secret Service car following our bus. I don't know what they thought we were going to do, but anyway.
And question over here.
Men?
Yes. No shorts. No shorts. I wouldn't. I mean.
Well, you're not bad.
It's something extra to carry.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't see any men wearing shorts. Let me put it that way. Okay.
Can I ask, jeans?
Yeah, jeans are fine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, jeans are good. Yeah, jeans are great. And comfortable shoes. I took 2 pair of shoes. I took a pair of sneaker type shoes, tennis shoes, and then another pair of shoes that I wear all the time they're step-ins, but they're closed toes and they're very, very comfortable. And that's all I took. And you don't need to take, 3 or 4 or 5 pairs when you're packing light.
I've been researching shoes for sand, hard rock, and all that sort of thing. And the biggest thing is to make sure they are all rubber bottoms, for one thing, because you can slip on anything else. And you can wear sandals, but they need to be like hiking sandals if you want to have them open and whatever for going up and down and whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All rubber though.
Okay. If you're going to Egypt and you're going to or if you're going to, what's the place in Jordan? Petra. The road that you have to walk on to get in there is very uneven, it's very rocky, it's very sandy, and if the wind is blowing, it's going to be very, very dusty. So that's why I would say closed-toed shoes and rubber is good. Yeah. What?
Can you wear sunglasses?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And take a hat or a visor or something like that, too, yeah. Oh, yeah. But again, make sure that whatever you're wearing doesn't have anything with political implications on it at all.
Or in the USA something.
Right.
And someone else recommended that we bring a mask, not because of COVID, but because of...
For the dust, yes. Valley of the Kings, it was totally I was not expecting it to be, but it's just a kind of a vast, open plain, which is very rocky. They have these big rocks and small rocks, and there's no paving or anything, and you have to walk for quite a distance to get to a tomb, and then you go into the tomb and you go down, and it's easy to turn your ankle or something like that on these stones, so just be aware, And if it had been windy that day, I'm sure the dust would have been terrible.
They recommended retractable walking sticks where you can fold them down enough to pack in your suitcase.
I took a cane, but I never used it. I don't know. It's up to you. And somebody mentioned adapters. You know what we're talking about for the electricity? Okay, you will need, I should have looked this up, the same one that you use in Europe. Okay, it works in all 3 countries. It's 220, but this is the adapter plug that I'm talking about. And in any appliance that you take, it's a European adapter plug. But any appliance like a hairdryer or whatever that you take, yeah, make sure it's the international thing where you can just turn the little thing and you can use 220.
Are they all 3 different?
No, they're all the same.
They're all the same.
All 3 countries have the same plug. Yeah, yes.
Just going to mention that USB connections for charging phones and devices is pretty much universal.
Yes, it is, yes.
You need an adapter.
You need an adapter to the voltage or a lot of hotels nowadays have USB ports.
Yeah.
The adapter for the plug.
Yeah, that's right. So take 1 or 2 plugs, if you can, okay.
Question over there.
Yes.
Here.
Where do we get the adapter?
Amazon.
Walmart, AAA, Walmart, Home Depot,
Battery Plus.
Already tell them where you're going. Battery Plus.
Aisle 6 in Home Depot.
Yes.
Just reading recently, there's a lot of hacking going on if you're plugging directly into a USB port somewhere, like in an airport or somewhere, so you want to have a plug, a charging plug that you plug your USB into. You don't want to plug into an airport USB adapter, like where you sit and wait.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff they're hacking about.
That's a good point, yeah. Okay, yes.
Did you find that they had hair dryers in the hotel?
Yes. Yeah.
What was that? That type of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yes. And speaking of shampoo, our hotel in Jerusalem, which was a very nice hotel, they give you little bottles of shampoo and so forth. I love this shampoo. And it's called Nature something. Anyway, I tried to buy some online. I went online when I got home, and they don't sell it. But if you see it, and if you get it, and you don't like it, bring it to me. It's Dead Sea mud shampoo.
Was there an elevator at the hotel?
Oh yeah.
And what you said about shoes wearing and then they did say
What did I say?
about where they give you going into the Dead Sea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have that on the list here. You're going to the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is surrounded by resort hotels, great big resort hotels. Are you? Well, then maybe this is not going to be relevant to you. I don't know. We arrived on a bus. We had buffet lunch in the hotel, and then we went down to the beach area, and we got changed into our bathing suits, and we were each issued a towel and a pair of flip-flops. And then it's a kind of a long walk to get from there, and you have to cross a big street, and then down the beach, and then the last, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 feet of the beach are these big salt crystals. And the flip-flops do not stay on, at least I have trouble wearing flip-flops. So I'm just saying, I wished I had had an old pair of tennis shoes. I could have worn them in the Dead Sea and then throw them away afterwards. Okay? And even after you get into the water, before you start to float, there's all these big salt crystals. What? I don't have any of those, but yeah, that would work.
I couldn't use the word beach to describe the Dead Sea. To me, there were huge rocks and huge holes. We're not talking, like out here. It's very rocky terrain there, depending on the level of water. It seems like it keeps going down and down and down.
Yeah.
It's quite a trek to go down.
Yeah.
It'd be quite a trek to come back up.
And you have to watch out for those rocks in the water as well.
In the water.
Yeah.
I've heard of those.
And they say that the gentleman should not shave before going into the water because it stings. You're all set, Tim. Okay, one of the most important things I'm going to tell you now is the ladies especially should take along a large number of $1 bills. Yes. American $1 bills, new, not brand new, but not old and worn and torn, because they don't accept those. Because every time you go into a public bathroom, restroom, there will be a heavily veiled lady standing there dispensing toilet paper, and she will expect a tip. And since I don't think I ever handled any Israeli or Egyptian money the whole time I was there to get any change, you know, I mean, it's a dollar for them. It's like, oh my God, you know, so 3 or 4 or 5 people could go in on $1, really. But it's nice because, you know, they need the money, right?
In Egypt, we found that they preferred dollars.
Ah.
They didn't want their own money.
Okay, okay.
They wait for it.
And I was also told that to carry $10 bills, American dollars, rather than any other denomination, because if you buy something on the street, that's what they will take. They don't want 20s, they don't want 5s, they'll take 10s and 1s.
Will you get more toilet paper with the dollar?
I don't know. Marty?
What type of jewelry can we wear or should not wear?
I wouldn't wear any jewelry at all, especially not expensive jewelry.
Leave your jewelry at home.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to Bethlehem. Bethlehem is very hilly. Bethlehem, we're talking about Bethlehem. It's very, very hilly and uneven cobblestone streets everywhere. We had lunch at the home of a Palestinian Christian and it was very interesting, but we had a much smaller group than you guys too, so I don't know what you will do, but the one highlight for us in Bethlehem was the Church of the Nativity, which was beautiful, very, very interesting. I hope you get to sing there. It's really a very moving experience. What?
Rubber tree or fig tree that used to stand there.
Yeah, yeah, they did in the courtyard there. Yeah, yeah.
I'll be right out.
And oh, in Bethlehem, yes.
I have a question. As this trip has numerous days, and do we tip the guide or the driver like every day, give her $1, or do we wait?
That is something you have to take up with the tour company. We were
Prepaid our tips.
okay.
We prepaid our tips. We had no choice, and I will find out exactly what that means. It's been charged to your portal. You have prepaid that. The hotel, the guides, and then I'll find out if it includes the bus drivers or not. So, but you prepaid them, so you won't need to do too much different.
Right.
Certainly not the bathroom.
Well, the bathrooms, no, you gotta check the toilet paper lady.
And when you go through these checkpoints in the airports, there's always a heavily veiled woman all in black to pat down the women if it's needed. So it's very strange.
And you said the same people that are monitoring the bathrooms, it's also in the airport as well?
No, I don't think so. But no, I'm talking about going through security.
No, I know what you were talking about, but I mean, the people that were tipping the dollars with toilet paper and stuff, that's when we get out of the airports, not in the airports too.
I don't remember that. I don't know.
The regular bathrooms in the airport.
I will. Yes. I will tell you one little experience in Jordan. We flew from Tel Aviv. No, we flew from Jerusalem, I guess, or maybe Tel Aviv to Jordan. And it was a small plane, and we arrived, and we had to go through 2 security things. And there were 2 young women, not veiled, who were managing this one security checkpoint. They acted like they didn't know what they were doing. And there was one man in our group, an older man, who had back problems, and he was wearing I don't know what it was exactly, a big thing on his back. And every time he went through the scanner, it would set off the scanner. So they would make him go and do it again, 3 or 4 or 5 times. And finally, you know, he said, and he was a doctor, this guy. And finally he said, look, I've got this thing. And he raises up his shirt. They made him take off everything on the top. And we all had to turn our backs while he did that. So that's the extent of the security. But Jordan was really the strictest. And one interesting thing, when you go to Bethlehem, and probably on some other occasions too, you will be on the West Bank, you'll be in Palestine. And with going into Palestine, you go through a security point, but you don't stop, you just go through. But coming back into Israel, sometimes they stop you and you have to get off the bus. Yes?
Do artificial joints set off?
Yes. Yes, they do.
How about pacemakers?
I don't know. You'll know if they do.
Can you repeat questions, because on either side of the room, we can't hear them.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have a question. If they do the joint, if you have a card that says you have an artificial knee, you can take it or what?
I have 2 artificial hips. She's asking about the medical cards that say that you've had a hip replacement or something. And I never had one of those cards. And I asked airport security, and they say no, it doesn't make any difference. You should go through the one that, you know, where you stand there and go like this. And yes. And you had a card?
Would you repeat?
She said she was carded one time?
Yeah, I have a pacemaker.
Oh.
Every time I go through, I have to let them know.
Yes.
And one of the trips that we were on, I was asked to show my car.
Okay.
And I carry it with me all the time with the rest of my insurance. So
Okay. She has a pacemaker. She has a card from the doctor to say that she has this, and she carries it with her all the time, and she uses it at the airport.
What's this card?
A card where they say I've had a hip replacement or I've had a pacemaker.
Had your shots or whatever?
Well, no, but it's like that. It's like that. And when I go through security, I just tell them. I go like this, and they know. And I still set off the alarm, and then I go through the scanner, and then they pat me down, and then I'm good. Yes?
Did you say to not wear any clothes that say you're American, like an American flag t-shirt or anything like that? Nothing like that?
Well, I won't say anything, but you know what I mean, something that could be misconstrued. Right now, they're having some issues over there with, you know, demonstrations and against the government and so forth. And you just don't want to get into it with anybody. So I did, yes. Yes, I did. Yes?
Would it be fair to say that since the women mostly are veiled and it's kind of, we shouldn't be wearing anything really flower or colorful, just kind of.
No. She's asking about colorful clothes. No, that's fine. That's fine. No, it's not a problem.
The thing about American flag and stuff is you don't want to draw attention to yourself that you're a tourist.
Right, exactly. I mean, I guess the point is don't flaunt it, you know.
In Egypt, when we were there, we had a driver and a guide, and one time we were approaching one of these checkpoint kinds of things, and so the driver turned around and said, you're Czechoslovakian. I said, can't we be Canadians? And we were Canadians, and we asked why, and he said, because it would draw particular attention to you if you're American.
Wow, did you hear that?
No.
You were in Egypt? This is in Egypt?
Well, around Cairo somewhere.
I don't know where to start. They went through a security checkpoint, and the guard told them to say that they were.
We were on the road. We were fully in Egypt, and so it was.
Why don't you share the story?
Stand up, stand up.
Stand up and
Come on.
So we were fully in Egypt and we were just.
Speak
driving-
loudly.
Speak up. Well, I'm still getting over my bronchitis, so I'm fine. But we were just driving along to the next place we were going to, and they noticed, the driver noticed that there was one of these military type checkpoints.
Yeah.
It wasn't security per se. But anyway, he just told us, okay, you're Czechoslovakian. And I said, well, why can't we be Canadians? Because they speak English. And so he said, fine, you're Canadians. And then when we asked why, he said, because if they know you're Americans, then they will start paying attention to us.
Yeah, I get that.
2016.
Yes.
What about like pickpockets? Are there pickpockets
Everywhere in the world.
They are, but we never had a problem. There was no. That's all I can say. Another thing, you know, the Middle East is not America. You know, do not expect the same level of cleanliness or sterilization or whatever, because it's not going to be that way. And Egypt especially, the streets are dirty. The Nile River has got junk floating in it. I mean, you know, the hotels were fine and the restaurants were fine, but it's dirty. It's dirty.
Boy, we were on an overpass in Cairo, and there's this dead horse lying there.
Oh, jeez. Did your travel agent do anything with visas? Did you have to get visas for these?
Visas are included in the price of the trip, that's all.
Oh, okay.
They will make the arrangement.
Okay. Yes.
When you were in Egypt, did you eat fresh salads?
Yes.
Fruit?
Yes.
Nobody got sick?
Nobody got sick that I know of. The food was fabulous everywhere we went. But it was very Middle Eastern. I don't know how many of you are not familiar with Middle Eastern food. It's not spicy, but it's definitely not something that you see all the time in Sarasota and Bradenton. But it's delicious. I mean, you know, be experimental.
What is Middle Eastern food?
Well, I come from Toledo, Ohio, where we have a lot of Lebanese population and we have wonderful restaurants there. So I was used to this, and in fact, even looking forward to it. They have things like hummus. The first course, they always would bring out a large assortment of these hors d'oeuvre things, like hummus or baba ganoush or fattoush, which is a salad, or tabbouleh or grape leaves. And then you take as much as you want. And then the second course, you had a choice of usually steak or chicken, and it was always well prepared. So, and lamb, yeah. But the food was great, and the desserts too. Don't drink the water. We were told everywhere, don't drink the water. In the hotels, they kept bringing us these big bottles of water to leave in the room, and on the bus, they always had extra water for us. So, Carol?
That was my question.
Okay. In Petra, I mentioned that, very difficult terrain. They do have golf carts that you can go, and they'll take you into the main section of it, so you don't have to miss it. Let's see, I talked about Valley of the Kings. You're going to see King Tut. He's there. I mean, the mummy is there in the tomb. No. The mummy of Tut is there in the tomb, and the tomb is in Valley of the Kings. And
Not in their museum?
no, but you probably will go to the museum in Cairo, which unfortunately the new museum that was supposed to be finished when we were there is not finished yet. So you'll go to the old museum, which was very interesting, but it's kind of old and dingy, but you'll get to see the treasures of King Tut and so forth. Yeah. Oh, you knew him in elementary school. Yes.
Were there any requirements for shots And were there, no, okay. And were there any recommendations for emergency medications to bring with you?
That's good. I told my doctor that I was going, and she gave me a script for Travelers, diarrhea, and a Z-Pack, of antibiotics to take along, just in case. So, yeah, you should. No, but I think some of the people on the trip did. Yes.
The Middle East is not a place for aggressive or assertive women. You need to realize that you're in a different culture, and if you are used to being that way here, it is time to step back and tone it down.
Yeah.
Actually, in Egypt, you may not even see any women. Don't be an aggressive woman.
Well, that's not true.
In Jordan, we saw women were even able to drive in Jordan.
We saw women in Egypt.
Yeah, we saw a lot of women in Egypt. In fact, I think Egypt was the most lax for, women's rights or whatever you want to call it. Joanne?
I just wanted to say that because we're there in October, and that's usually when we get our flu shots here, that it may be a good idea a couple of weeks before to get it.
Yeah, don't get it right before you leave. Flu shots, she's talking about flu shots.
Here's a question.
Yes.
Did anyone in your group have a CPAP machine? Was they required to still want it?
I don't think they did, no. I can't answer that.
We didn't hear.
She was asking about CPAP.
I use a CPAP, and I've used it for like 12 years, and I've traveled overseas. And as long as you have the adapter, the correct adapter for your CPAP, I've never had a problem.
I'm concerned about distilled water.
Oh, distilled water. Oh, that's true. You're supposed to use distilled water. Right. I don't know. A lot of times, I guess I would use like bottled water. If they give us bottled water, that's what I would do is use bottled water. And it might be distilled, it might not, but we're only talking about how many days. I mean, it's not going to ruin your machine if you don't use distilled water for that number of days. But I would use the bottled water that the hotel gives you and not water out of the faucet.
Right. Yeah, we were told we were in a pretty elegant hotel in Jerusalem, and don't drink the water.
Right.
Do you think I could take distilled water in my checked baggage?
Why would you?
Why? Because I have a CPAP machine too.
Oh, but you can. Well, you listen to what he just said. And
actually, this last trip that I went to Italy, I got one of those mini CPAPs. They're mini CPAPs, and you don't have to worry about water. They have this little insert that you put in your mask, okay? I use a full face mask. And so that takes the place of the water. So, and you can use any CPAP really without water. The only problem is your throat's going to get more dry without the water, but you can still use it without the humidifier. And so, I mean, I'm planning to bring that small one that I have, a mini CPAP, but they're expensive and they're not covered under insurance. They take like $600 I have to pay. But they're very small, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's okay. But anyway, so it might be worth doing that. They're looking at that. If you have any questions about it, I can help.
Okay.
Okay, and this guy standing, his name is?
John. Carol.
The airlines let your CPAP not count against your one carry-on.
Right. You can carry that in a separate luggage, and just to be on the safe side though, I get a letter from my doctor that says that I use a CPAP, and I bring that with me, just put it in a little carry-on thing, and they can't count that as a carry-on, okay? It's a medical device, so they can't count that as a carry-on.
Okay, I just have one more thing to say, and that is we finished our trip in Egypt, and the pyramids, fabulous. I've said this to Tim and other people too, but I mean, all the time you've been growing up, I'm sure you've seen pictures of the pyramids, you've seen them on TV and blah, blah, blah. But until you go there and actually see them in person, you just can't imagine it. So I hope you have a lovely time. I wish I were going with you, but I would say pack light, and when I got back, I was exhausted.
this concludes our time together. Please do not leave any of this food here. Take your stuff back. Take somebody else's stuff back. Help me clean up. Everything gone. Thank you.